going to eat Binu. Yeah. Eat my ass, sweet.
I didn't wipe. He's like, no!
Yay.
I made myself upset now.
Good. You deserve it.
Rancid.
Gibbs, you know you started the stream, right?
Oh, we're not. No, we're not. We're not live yet. Chat? Hello? We're live.
Yeah, it started playing.
Oh my god! YouTube changed stuff. Alright, hello. That's faster than I was expecting. Hello, Chatfish. We weren't supposed to be live yet, but good thing I closed the banking stuff I was doing.
Here we are.
Ripperoonie. That's the first time that went that live. Alright, good to know that just goes live now. Good to know. Alright, chat, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about Halo. That ruined my whole intro. It's just like spitball in my head. I had it fully laid out. But, alright, so, first things first. As we all know, Halo 343 is rebranding into Halo Industries. Or no, Halo Studios. Halo Industries is a completely different corporation that deals with, like, metal rings or something. I don't know. So,
they're
very different company. Very different company. So, yeah. Either way. Either way. We're going to talk about Halo and what that means for Halo as a franchise, what that means industry-wise, and some general estimates based on what we know about the studio already. That's basically more or less just 343, but with a different brand. Now, there were lots of firings, right, that did take place. But to recap, why is this important? Why does anybody care? Because Halo is one of those franchises that's sort of fallen to the wayside as time has gone on, right? Many people don't really remember Halo as what it once was. And I want to recap Halo at its peak. Halo at its, like, absolute zenith point, you know? And one of those things, if anyone remembers this, is Halo 3. Halo 3's launch was cataclysmic. It was cultural. It was on your Burger King cup. It was on your Burger King bag for your little Burger King sandwich. You know, it was everywhere. They did collaborations. There was a massive launch which took place in New York where people lined the streets to be handed out their very own Halo 3 game by a dude dressed up as Chief. And literally, if I remember right, they actually got like actual soldiers from the US Army to actually, I think it was the Army? I don't remember if it was Marines or whatever, to literally come and basically be at this event to help like hype it up. Like Bill Gates showed up. Like everybody was there, and it was one of those things that it wasn't just unique to one location. If you remember, and for those that don't, imagine stores, right? Back when there used to be lots of video game stores and, like, you know, electronic stores that sell video games, there would be people camped out on launch nights with literal like camping tents wrapped around the building in massive lines, waiting, hoping that there were enough copies inside for them to get one of these copies of this game. That is how incredibly excited people were about this game. This game was massive. They put the member Chief in the soda. I don't know why, but when I saw what you wrote, I immediately thought they put Chief in hamburger. And I'm just like, oh, right. All right.
Burger Chief.
But yeah,
Chief in the shoulder.
Here's like an older video basically showing like the launch, midnight launch, and like some of the stuff. The footage isn't very high quality, but they had all sorts of things ranging from like vehicles showing up. Like it was a huge press thing as well. There were tons of people. People were super excited, you know? And it was an event that I remember everybody being excited about. This isn't the time in gaming when people were super excited for video games, like Star Wars Battlefront. I remember being the exact same thing. I remember how cool I thought my dad was, and I still do to this day. Best dad ever, because he got me a copy of Star Wars Battlefront 2 while I was at school, and none of the other kids could get it because they sold out, because my dad fucking like just sat in line for me. And that's such a cool thing. And I remember bragging for like a week or 2 weeks until they got restocked. And just being like torturing my friends, like, yeah, I beat it twice now. And they're like, eh.
And they're like, you
hate
probably
Jen.
should have
But
been
that's
taller
like-
than the other kids.
It's a completely different
Otherwise,
culture, right? Because nowadays, because of digital release, right? It's not like limited physical copies, right? It's not as crazy as what it once was. It's a completely different timeline. We'll never get the excitement of stuff like this back. Now, it did suck being in line, right? Waiting forever, but it was crazy just all the people you see, and goddamn, those big titties. But goddamn, just like, whoa.
Remember when games used to sell them?
But yeah, and so this sort of paints a canvas of what Halo was at its peak, at its zenith. Halo not only saved the console that Xbox was, but it helped to establish their dominance on the console wars, entering the 6th generation, I think, or 7th gen. I always get them mixed
I
up.
think it's 6th gen. That's
The
Xbox
360, yeah, because Halo 3 was there at the launch of 360, like it, or not necessarily there, but it came very soon thereafter. It just helped catapult that system into the limelight of being dominant, a dominant force, and helped the platform to be dominant as well. The role it had to play on the console wars is massive. It's one of the few games that single-handedly saved an entire like faction in terms of like the
Wouldn't-
console wars. What?
Wouldn't you agree? I think that even Gears of War wouldn't exist if Halo didn't get such a massive
Well,
success
yeah,
back then.
without Halo, the original Xbox was looking in dire straits, right? Because the original Xbox needed to survive for the 360 to be born, and it was massive. Not only was it just massive in terms of its launch, but like the gameplay from the campaign was incredible. Never forget the campaign. Everybody always overshadows the campaign with the multiplayer, and the multiplayer played a pivotal role. Make no mistake. But if it wasn't for the campaign, a lot of people wouldn't have gotten sold on it, because how that worked is people bought into the campaign, got hooked on the campaign, showed it to their buds. Their buds were like, oh, this is pretty good. And then, after you beat the campaign, what normally do friends do? They start shooting the crap out of each other in multiplayer, yeah. So the campaign is the hook, right? It's often the unsung hero, but it needs to be commended every time, because without a good campaign, you're not going to hook your players into the game. And that's what really reeled in the massive crowds. But yeah, and so we're going to talk about, and I'm going to turn this on in the background, but we don't really need to hear it because we've already watched this before. But basically it's the Unreal Engine update, and this is new footage about Halo 3, or the 343 basically rebranding, not being shuttered really, rebranding, right? I've seen a lot of YouTubers say that this is a great thing and that this is fantastic, but all it is it's 343 rebranded into another company. Yes, they fired some people, but fundamentally Halo Studios is more or less the same, right? They weren't the inheritors of what Bungie had, well, they are the inheritors of what Bungie made, but they didn't make Halo great. They had nothing to do with that. And so that's one of the big concerns, right? And that's, I think, one of the things we need to underline here. Because Halo Infinite, we got our hopes up. I mean, even I got my hopes up a little, and I was pretty skeptical. I wanted it to be good, and it fucking disappointed on pretty much every front. Its campaign was botched. It was so half-baked. They didn't even put a iota of soul or effort into the campaign. And why I think campaigns are incredibly important is because you hook the player first with a solid campaign, and the multiplayer can always be updated to have more content later. But the campaign must be complete and full at its core and solid. And there's a lot of problems with it, and a lot of out-of-touchness they have with good game design and what made Halo great, rather than basically rummaging through the bin of old, dead, failed ideas from Bungie, right? Bungie originally wanted Halo to be a real-time strategy game, but then later changed their idea into making it into a FPS. Now, the studio had not a lot of experience with first-person shooters outside of Marathon, right? It had nothing on the level of what they did with Halo. Like, if you look at their other products that they produced, like Myth, a fucking awesome RTS. Myth is amazing. A pain in the ass to get to work, but it's ahead of its time in a lot of ways, and nothing's ever come close to it. Honestly, if Myth is borderline a Halo of its own. But either way, ignoring that, the big thing here is that this studio, in my opinion, has yet to really earn anything. Now, they are abandoning the Slipspace engine, which is I think it's Slipspace engine is what it's called. I can't remember.
I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, it's basically the engine they're working on because they're too incompetent to develop an engine and a game at the same time. Not that it's, because it's impossible. Many competent studios have done this in the past. They, despite having Microsoft's money, are too incompetent that even having that basically blank check, they cannot even do that right. And this is not just a limited issue, right? It's the leadership. The leadership is fundamentally flawed with 343 Studios and now Halo Studios getting started. Yes, they fired people, but a lot of people they fired didn't really change anything. Like, a lot of the people are still in the same social circles and like strata. When it comes to these sort of upper strata in terms of management, these people normally are kind of in similar circles. And so when you replace Frank with Joe and Frank are best friends and they basically share notes. So the big problem is that they are focusing again on DEI focused political based hiring. This is disastrous because it already sets a very bad tempo for what's to come. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the game is going to be bad or will be bad, but my big concern is that Halo has always had a failing or at least the main companies like 343 has a massive misunderstanding of what makes Halo good. No matter how much you tell them what made Halo great, they would never understand, right? Let's talk about Halo 1 for just but a moment, chat. Halo 1 comes out on the Xbox original, like 2004, I think. Or is it 2005? I think it's 2000. All right, no. Yeah, I think about that ballpark. Either way, it comes out for the Xbox original, right? This thing launches. It's got, what are you greeted with when you boot up Halo 1? You're greeted with a incredible, ominous, mysterious Gregorian choir and this mysterious Halo ring spinning in the background with really no context as to what the fuck is happening. It starts off with the keyword mystery. Mystery. What is Halo? What is everything that's happening? Why it's got this ominous sort of almost religious significance, right? And when you start the campaign, it starts off pretty heavy hitting, right? They're being chased across space. You don't really know what's going on. The ship called the Pillar of Autumn is in dire straits, right? Things are looking bad. Captain Keyes, you learn really quickly, is like the heroic captain figure, and he's trying to save the vessel and all his men as best he can, right? To set things right as best he can. But the situation has gone foobar. Everything is in over their heads. It's an uphill, titular battle against an enemy that you have never heard of called the Covenant. They're religious, they're extreme, they're crazy, they're insane. They're hell-bent on human extinction, right? Nasty fuckers. And all of this sets up a very interesting thing with a background of this mysterious ring. And you have this music that's made by Martin O'Donnell, a masterful composer, who has masterfully crafted this beautiful track, right? That's got these sort of religious, almost undertones. And it just feels so good. Everything hits so right. In fact, the weakest part of Halo 1 is Halo 1's gameplay. Its gameplay is its weakest part. The gunplay is a little, stiff. Even back then, like as far as gunplay goes, it wasn't that great. It's very much a console shooter. But it was carried by its immense campaign. It was carried by its immense music, its story, its rich art direction and style. And that is what allowed it to spawn Halo 2. Halo 2 takes that and revs it up to the next level. Now, Halo 2 is rushed, unfortunately, and there were a lot of things that were cut. A lot of things. But in spite of this, Halo 2 was a resounding success with its multiplayer. It had a really good campaign. It did sort of fall off towards the end, but even so, the campaign was incredibly stellar. With great music, and especially for the era, had fucking all sorts of fun music. It had, what is it, Benjamin?
Breaking Benjamin.
Breaking Benjamin, like a staple of the era.
That fucking meme.
You know what? I don't call it a meme. That was cool. That was fucking cool. All that shit was cool. That shit was amazing. And it really just took everything that Halo established and took it to the next level. Yes, the graphics were trying to focus on realism, and that was a mistake. A mistake they corrected in Halo 3 and went a bit more stylistic. And that's why Halo 3 still looks so good today. Halo 3 is one of those games that looks very gorgeous, even today, and by today's standards. And the big thing I gotta say with that is that it's this understanding that Bungie had of what they were making that really sold this game and made this game just click on every level so right. And that's, I think, one of the big problems going forward is 343 Industries inherited a golden mantle. but they had no idea what to do with it because they themselves didn't earn it. They didn't build it. They didn't work for it. Even Halo, all right? Even Halo 1, Combat Evolved, did not just come easily. Bungie built themselves up. They made a game called Marathon Durandal. And that's its own thing. And it's like a sort of Doom-esque game, but it's got its own sort of lore and flavor. And it's very interesting. Then they made another game series called Myth. Myth is an incredible, dark, sort of metal American 1980s fantasy RTS about mankind facing a horrific force of darkness that's like takes the dead and raises it, and is basically fighting this massive war in a desperate bid, just like the Halo game, by the way, and against a force they cannot possibly stand against. They've had a really good understanding of what it feels like to be the rebel, because that's what makes games like this cool. That's what made Star Wars cool. When being rebels was cool. Now being rebels is like being normal. It's like, oh, you're not a rebel fighting against like an evil enemy, right? Like in Myth, against the dark forces that wanted to wipe out all living life. Or in Halo, the Covenant, hell-bent on exterminating mankind wherever they were found in the stars, so that they themselves could ignite the rings and kill everything and everyone. And that was incredibly cool. It's very like dark and twisted and very mysterious, because you have things like the Flood. Where did the Flood come from? And all these mysteries. And the big thing I want to talk about is what 343 began to do when they started to ruin Halo, when they started to bring Halo down. And it starts with book series, and it starts with the Forerunner book series. The Forerunner book series, what it does is it tries to explore the Forerunners when they were never meant to be explored. And by doing this, they begin doing several major retcons. The first and foremost big retcon, and why this matters you'll see in a second. The first major retcon was changing it so that humans were no longer the Forerunners. They revised that it was another race, and that the humans were actually a different race, and that actually the humans and the Forerunners were actually basically races that were competing for the interest of an even older race called the Precursors, who are actually
older.
the Flood. And it's like okay, like you took a mystery, you've explained it, and you revealed it, and now what you've done is you've essentially undermined everything that what made Halo a mystery. You should never have answered those questions. By expanding and exploring this important information, you have demystified the world. You have told us what the secrets are, rather than showing us through discovery. And by doing this telling instead of showing practice, which is exactly what the Forerunner books do, tell instead of show, you take away all of the mystery. And now there's nothing left.
And the story got worse for you.
And the story did get worse, because now it's like it's quantifiable. It's now something you can wrap your head around. It's the idea of the Eldritch Horror, something indescribable. And the act of describing it should be something that you should never do. Because if it's an indescribable horror, how is it indescribable if the book describes what it is, right? It's like Cthulhu, but then if Cthulhu has art. But Cthulhu having art undermines Cthulhu as an entity. Honestly, the artwork makes it not scary.
Monster.
Yes, because the more you know about it, it's like the necromorphs in Dead Space. Once you know what the mystery is at the end of Dead Space 1, Isaac Clarke is no longer as terrified of necromorphs. They're still horrific monsters, but you now know the mystery's solved. You know how they become what they become. What their modus operandi is. Their objective.
Doesn't the same issue appears in, I think, Myth 1 and 2? Because there's those monsters that were so bad that everyone was scared of them in Myth 1.
The second one.
And yeah, in the first game, everyone's like, wow, what the fuck? What were they? Like, they find these pillars of skulls that they made. And then the second one, no, they're just bad people. Or something like that.
Yep, it's explaining it is always a bad idea, because what you do is you take something that's so scary and so creepy, and then you tell people what it is, rather than
demystify it.
That you demystify. And how do you explain certain things? Well, the reality is you shouldn't. Not every mystery needs to be told, but this is the issue with corporatization. This is the issue with over monetization, right? one of the problems with this is if you make a setting or a universe, there are certain things that should just never be explained. Because much like in our own world, what makes mysteries mysteries is you just don't know, you know? And when you solve a certain mystery, it brings a new light to a certain thing, but you need to have a plan for what that thing was. We needed to have a plan for what the Forerunners were in Halo. And why does this matter, right? This matters because when you demystify your story, the thing that made Halo 1, 2, and 3 so cool, learning about the Ark, where the Halos came from, and learning about these things that the Forerunners left behind for the inheritors, their children, to inherit. That's what made it mysterious. That's what made it cool. That's what made it great. When you take that away with Halo 4, there was no mysteries to go with anymore. The books answered those mysteries. The didact, if you read the books, is pretty self-explanatory. Who he was, what he did, everything about him. There's no mystery to the didact. He's just a dude, an ordinary guy, a dude bro, if you will.
The inherent problem with them, not just that they demystified it, because like demystifying it is a big problem in its own right, but a key thing that you see consistently with writing 343 does, and well now, I would imagine with Halo Studios would be the same. When they took Halo over, they didn't actually know anything about Halo. And that you could see that with Anniversary, where they tried to just reskin everything to be just generic sci-fi military.
Halo Anniversary isn't reskinned with generic sci-fi military. Halo Anniversary is just Halo Reach assets.
They're reusing Halo Reach assets when it doesn't look right.
Some of them, not all of them.
Most of them. Pretty much all of them. When it comes to the Marines, all of it's actually just the Halo Marines from Reach. Reskinned and recolored slightly. I know this because I played Reach quite a bit, and it annoyed the shit out of me.
My point still stands that they didn't know anything about Halo when they took over. They've admitted that.
But the thing is with Halo Anniversary was just bad. It was lazy, and it was also its own problem because they didn't take the source code from the console version. They were using a lot of prototype things, and I believe that was also with Bungie, wasn't it? It wasn't actually 343, I don't remember. Maybe it was.
No, that was 343's first project, I'm pretty sure.
It was a disaster.
Halo Anniversary.
Halo Anniversary was a massive disappointment.
So they took over, they knew nothing about Halo, and they do not know how to write a heroic story. At all. It's a foreign concept to them.
It's not necessarily the heroic story that's the issue. It's a lacking understanding of the setting. The lacking understanding of the mystery aspect, the no idea of where to take this thing. If you watch Halo 3 to the end of its cutscene, you see that big planet. I think it's called Requiem or something. But it's the Forerunner planet.
I think it's Requiem.
Yeah.
Might be wrong.
But either way, it's sort of mysterious, and it leads into what could be the next Halo trilogy, right? And then Halo 4 tries to take that and go with it, right? But the big issue is that they do a massive time skip forward, and so you don't really have any attachment to the UNSC. The UNSC has got this sort of self-internal fighting thing. What made Halo 1, 2, and 3 heroic in its right was that Keyes, both Captain Keyes and his daughter Keyes, as well as Admiral Hackett, or not Hackett, what was his name? The Ron Perlman Admiral.
Ron Perlman Admiral Hood, yeah.
Admiral Hood. All of these characters are borderline like heroic, like almost military propaganda. Borderline out of the 1940s and like 50s, sort of like World War I, World War II, or not World War I, World War II, like American, propaganda World War II movies. And they had these sort of like always badass lines like Sergeant Johnson. And all these guys just felt amazing. Johnson's a badass, right? Captain Keyes went down like a true Chad. Horrifically, by the way, too. Poor bastard. Mm-hmm. Miranda Keyes, didn't get the best send-off, but, poor Miranda Keyes. But,
she's...
3 had... I had issues with the way
3 had some serious pacing problems, but it was also because they did some things rushy. The problem is 2 and 3 were both rushed products, and this is, again, not even Bungie's fault. This is actually Microsoft's fault. It's why Bungie hated working on Halo by the end so much with Reach that they were basically prototyping Destiny within Reach's engine because they wanted to get away from them. This, again, is back to leadership. and Microsoft not understanding what made Halo great by constantly meddling. It's not necessarily just 343, right? There are people in 343 that were fans of Halo. By all intents and purposes, surely a fan of Halo should understand what makes Halo fun, right? Or great. But we have to never forget that Microsoft is their overlord, and their overlord doesn't really give a fucking shit about the product. They don't care. Microsoft has never cared. Just like Sony doesn't care about what makes good. Like the whole Lord Hood, you Philistines. Thank you for the nation. All right, we should take this moment to get through donations and caught up because there's so many people on it.
I will start reading from the top. So, Harlot gives membership. Then, Terratine donates 20 North Koreans. So, Kibbs, did you buy the game yet?
Yeah, I did.
Also, I didn't donate $5. Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Off tally. Then he does $5. Shafe was the poster child of gaming, rivaling Mario among actual gamers, if not general populace. Off tally.
Yep, he basically replaced Mario and Zelda.
That.
Hold on, let me answer these because they paid for them. Don't just read them like a chore. They're not chores. But to answer it, yes. When it comes to, because if you look at the 90s and stuff like that, like Mario and Zelda were like the poster child, right? But when it came to the 2000s, you have like Kratos, you've got fucking Chief, you've got fucking, you know, these heroic characters, you have Marcus Phoenix, like Giga Chads, now going forward. But yeah. And now the next one, sweetie, if you would kindly.
I was adding them. 1 second. Like what I was saying during the Halo stream, kill tally. They does another $5. It's also one reason Xenomorphs became less scary, but the newborn in Resurrection was scary to me. It was unpredictable. Off tally.
Yep, it's when we talk about horror. Horror has a great understanding of mystery, right? And that's why when people complain about Dead Space story progression with Isaac Clarke becoming less scary, well, yeah, the reason why Dead Space 3 is an action game and less of a horror game makes absolute sense. The mystery of what the necromorphs are, or what they do, is more or less explained. The only mystery that's yet to be solved is why does the markers exist? And so the natural progression of a game series is normally to be more actiony. Because as you understand the horror more, there's less things to make it scary. And as soon as you start taking away certain mystery elements behind it, then it's natural that you're going to want to conclude its story so you can move on to the next thing. A universe should never end for its story, but a character's story should end. This is something Blizzard does not understand with characters like Thrall, right? They just keep dragging that poor fucker out of retirement to just stand around because they don't know how to make new characters that are interesting. You see this all the time where they try to be like, oh, look at this new character, but I need to prop up the old character right next to them. And you need to basically either like, oh, look, they're together and they're cool with each other. So you like the new guy. Now move on to the next guy. The issue with that is that sometimes I think a story, when a new story begins, should simply be a new story about new characters in the same world, right? At some point, we should be getting Halo games about characters that aren't Master Chief. Characters that don't have anything to do with Cortana. There's not, like, they're on the other side of the galaxy doing something completely different, dealing with their own problems. Because a galaxy shouldn't be so small. That's the problem. But they set things in space, and it's supposed to be so grandiose and big. But when we're constantly dealing with the same planet, we're going back to Tatooine again. We're going back to Hoth for some reason, you know. These planets that are like, okay, well, now the galaxy doesn't feel like such a big place after all. It's now small, right? And that's the thing. How do you make a world expansive is you make new stories. And these new stories do their own things in different areas.
They also became extremely formulaic, even if they did use other planets. It's always like, it's
it's like they just made Tatooine 2, but new. Like, yeah, that's what Jakku was in Star Wars.
And there's always a Baby Yoda now, like, or R2-D2.
There's a cute character, yep. It becomes formulaic rather than what it should be doing, right? You have your Star Wars story for the main story, right? Which has got your R2-D2, your C-3PO, those main big name characters. Halo had its Cortana and its Chief, right? They tried to do that with ODST, but ODST should have been on a different engine. It wasn't. It didn't get the proper development time it needed. They crammed in a romance for no reason. It's got a kick-ass fucking soundtrack, but it doesn't feel Halo. It's too melancholic. and it doesn't really understand. And it's also, after Halo 3, you get this sense of feeling that if you look at all the Halo games that come post Halo 3, the spin-offs and stuff, while they are cool and they have neat things like Halo Wars does and ODST does, but the problem is there's something wrong with even Halo Wars and ODST, something that just doesn't quite click right. And it's because they start becoming formulaic, right? ODST tried to just be sort of like, almost like, I don't even know, like detective-y, which was weird, and like noir. And it's like, but why are you being a noir? You're not really detective-y. You have this guy walking around picking up pieces of things that had happened, and he's somehow able to piece together everything that happened during the battle. It's like, it didn't click well. And then you have Halo Wars, and Halo Wars is cool, and it's made by Ensemble Studios. Rest in peace, Ensemble. You didn't deserve to die this way. But that game it's made for a console. It just doesn't really have the scope. It's a little bit too lighthearted and motif. It's got some amazing kick-ass CGI scenes, but it just doesn't really grasp the gravity of the situation, right? And you can see that after 3, they don't really know what they're doing. They fumble with these games, and they do okay, but more or less ODST was a disappointment, and enough that they had to change its name to Halo 3 ODST to try to recuperate losses so that people wouldn't think it was its own. Halo Wars ended up killing Ensemble Studios, one of the most beloved RTS companies in the industry. So that's tragic. That's tragic.
I bet that like the people that made the ODST are looking at Helldivers show right now and like, it should have been us. We should have made that.
Well, speaking of that, that's exactly what they're doing with this footage here. They made a Hell Jumpers, which is a modded mode that is now getting official support. And this is what I wanted to talk about, because this subject is massive. So when it comes to it, these companies don't really have any idea, and nor does Halo Studios have any idea, because they're adopting this mode. Now, this is all made inside Forge, and as a fan thing, that's pretty cool. I've got no complaints about fan-made things, ever. But my big issue is that it's like they're like, okay, we're gonna start adopting Helldivers stuff. So instead of pioneering, which is what Halo did, which was building new things and being ahead of the curve on things, they're now following in the footsteps of other companies. This is unironically kind of ironic, because the thing is for the longest time, Sony has been trying to undermine Halo, to beat them. They have made mini shooters to do this. The 2 big shooters they propped up to compete with Halo was Resistance and Killzone, yes. And ultimately, both of those titular titles failed. They couldn't quite compete with Halo. And they ended up just giving up and abandoning them. And I like aspects of both of those. The world building in Resistance is really cool, and the Hellgast and Killzone is really neat. But ultimately, they couldn't quite overshadow Halo the way they wanted, so they abandoned them. Helldivers, a game which was a little arcade twin-stick shooter game that got the budget, and this little Swedish studio got the budget as it slowly worked their way up from little baby company to big company, and managed to pump out Helldivers 2 with a small budget, barely enough dev time, because Sony didn't give them proper resources, with an out-of-date engine from 2018 that hasn't been supported since 2018. So they're operating with old tools and old assets. Were made a blowout success this year with Helldivers 2. Now, the success was pretty scary for a little baby studio like that. So they struggled with it. They almost floundered it, and Sony almost snuffed them out with their own bullshit. But they managed to recover and recuperate. So good for them for surviving that. But the big thing is, will Sony follow in the footsteps of Microsoft? Will they start micromanaging every little aspect about them? Because they look at what that did for Halo, right? Not a lot of good things. And when you look at this, it's like, the big thing I ask myself about this is that this is neat, and I like the idea of Halo spin-offs. That's like really cool, because we should be establishing new Halo stories and franchises, right? Because bigger and more is better. But the big problem is that they don't know where to take the franchise. There's no overhead direction about the universe and the storytelling. There's no actual direction. What is the Banished in the current new Halo? It's just a lamer version of the Covenant.
Yeah, like what became of the Covenant?
Oh, do you even remember they got defeated? Infinite plot line in Infinite?
Yeah, but I thought that the races that were part of the Covenant, they after Halo 3, I thought
No,
there was like a ceasefire, you know?
No, they're kind of
It's
like in a civil war, kind of. At least, I don't know what the current lore is at the moment.
Did they find out that they were being lied to?
Yeah, they did.
The elites did, but there was still some that believed.
Well, there were grunts and
yes,
hunters.
The Covenant more or less fractured.
There is a terrorist group in the Covenant, that was former Covenant, that formed after the events of Halo 3.
Yeah, like it could, you know, what they could do. They could go the Chimera Squad.
Well, here's the thing.
Way.
They didn't know what to do with it. It's too late. It doesn't matter. So the reality is what needed to be done right was to establish a clear roadmap of what to do after Halo 3. They failed to do this. And because they failed to do this, there's no point going back to that. The thing they're doing now is what I would call the only possible thing you could do, but it's not. It's a Hail Mary. It's reset and go back to Halo 1 and try again. If this fails, it will be a humiliation on the scales of which we have never seen. Ever. It will be a disaster on a colossal scale if this is fucked up.
They tried that with Infinite. Infinite was meant to be just a reboot.
No, it wasn't really a reboot. It was mostly Halo Infinite was they tried to basically distance themselves from the past. This is their real reboot. Halo Infinite was basically, all right, 4 and 5, we don't really know where to take the story. Let's just pretend it was solved off screen, which only compounds failure, by the way. And here's a new thing, and this new enemy called the Endless, and they're scarier and more spooky than all of the other enemies. It's like, they're so scary and spooky that they weren't ever in any of the other media, and so the Endless are this big thing. But they're not. They're not scary or spooky. They don't matter because they're never going to be in any games because nobody cares. And so when it comes to all of this, ultimately, Halo Infinite was an attempt to distance themselves from that past. The issue, like I said back then, is still the same. It exists. The only way to undo it is to either A, just go back to Halo 3 and admit and have the balls and the maturity to admit you were wrong. You fucked up. And say it loud. Deal with the fact that you've done it. Yeah, we fucked up. Halo 4, 5, and Infinite are a disaster. We messed up, and we now need to go back to where Halo 3 left off and reboot from there. They are rebooting from Halo 1, which is concerning for one specific reason. Because Halo 1 and 2 and 3 have their own problems, yes. But, by and large, just because they have some chinks in their armor here and there, it doesn't really make them bad. It's what made the series great. Restarting from there is a very big bad idea. Like it's beyond bad. Because restarting, or not from there, but from the beginning. Because now you have to do Halo 1, 2, and 3 again, but you need to eclipse them. How are you going to eclipse what I showed in the beginning, where there were lines wrapping around stores? There was US military sponsorship stuff around it. Literally soldiers and recruiters were there because they were just recruiting there as well. Because it was such a thing. You will never recapture that era and mystique again. So trying to start from the beginning with Halo 1 is already dead on arrival in that regard. It might be good. It could be alright. It could even be great. But it will never be as great as what came originally. Because ultimately, that magic, that time, that era is gone. You will never recapture that. And the people in charge of the studio don't understand that. The people in charge of the studio, the biggest problem with them is that they just don't know what Halo is. And most of them don't even play Halo games or play video games to begin with. The people in the management positions, the people with actual power, don't give a shit. They're more concerned with pronouns and bios. Literally, the chief of staff, if I remember right, is more concerned with LGBTQ political bullshit than video games. And it's this lacking understanding of what makes a game great and what makes games good, and caring about games first and foremost. That is the most important. Your political ideologies, who wins this next election, doesn't matter. None of that matters. You know why it doesn't matter? Because your job isn't about politics. Your job is entertainment. That is your politics. Your politics should only be concerned with what's good for gaming and what's good for Halo and what's good for the gamers. What's good for them is good business, and that's all that matters. Who wins this election? Who wins next year's election? What the fuck ever? That shit doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to you. If you are in charge of these companies, you don't care about LGBT things. That doesn't matter at all. None of this shit has anything to do with Halo. This is a completely Halo-orientated issue. And the fact that they're more willing to put pictures of Chief up with pride flags means that they go back. Leave it to the filthy fucking bullshit I have to deal with. Ugh, in the middle of my tangent too. But either way, back on subject, back to ranting. When it comes to all of this, the big problem and the fundamental problem is that right-leaning or left-leaning politics are irrelevant. Anyone who focuses on these issues, like, how do I put this? If you're focusing on politics, you've already fucked up. You don't belong in the gaming industry. Gaming industry doesn't have anything to do with politics. It's about making good games and good stories and not promoting a message and really promoting a message about you should vote for insert politician name here. That doesn't matter. None of that shit matters. It never mattered. And all the people, all the content creators, all the people that are trying to get you to believe that that is the only thing that matters are part of the problem. Because the problem is that we're not making games for gamers anymore. The reason why games were good, the reason why games were good in the 2000s and in the 90s was because, was Zelda about Trump or Biden or Harris winning this election? No. What? Exactly. What? Is Minecraft about, blank candidate winning and blank war going on in blank country? No. Nobody gives a shit. No one's going to remember blank war and blank random generic country as time moves on. The gaming industry is not about politics. We are about the art of escapism, the art of entertainment. It is our job to give people who have hard times working hard jobs or going through tough days, to give them a place to escape, to give them a moment of reprieve. It is our job to give them that which we all so desperately need. A moment to unwind and relax in your favorite setting, to save mankind and be the hero of today. Not this bullshit. Not this ideology shit. It's about escapism, and we all need it in our heart. Escapism is something that binds us all together. It is not about left-leaning or right-leaning. It's not about religion. It's about being human. And that's what makes it amazing. That's what brings escapism together. That's why when I look at our Discord groups and our friends, right? We've got people from everywhere across the goddamn planet, of all faiths and all creeds, all of them together in one place, sharing one hobby and one passion. And it's gaming. One big bucket. That's why Chatfish are strung together. Because together we are better than apart. And that's the thing people like that hate the most. They don't want you to be together. They're trying to divide you. They're trying to make you think right or left. They're trying to push you apart so that you choose your friends based on your beliefs, right? And that's not something you should, because that's not what friendship is about. That's not what makes friendship magic, you know? And jokes aside. I set that one up pretty good. But that's the big thing, you know, jokes aside. It's all about escapism. These games, do you fucking give a shit? Like, ask yourself that. I don't give a shit about what the creator of Star Wars thinks about politics or religion. The only opinion that matters is the opinion of people that it actually matters, which is only one person. Look in the mirror. It's you. You're the only one that matters when it comes to your political opinions. Who fucking cares what somebody else thinks? Fuck them. That's their own business, not yours. And that's what games are about. Games are about the politics of the worlds they're made of, which are fucking fake and made up. because it doesn't make sense to really, think about it any other level than that. Think about it. Fallout New Vegas, right? What faction do you like, chat? Do you like playing for the NCR, or do you like playing for Caesar's Legion? Or maybe you like playing for yourself, You just want to be, independent. Like, when you play Halo Wars, if you play the Covenant, does that mean you want to wipe out all mankind? Probably not.
Maybe.
A little bit.
But the Covenant are really fun, and it's really cool to play with their toys, because guess what? At the end of the day, these are just toys and games for us to escape it, right? That's the important thing here. And this escapism is what makes it beautiful, what makes it good, what makes it worth exploring. This is what makes Halo special. Halo isn't real. Halo is just a fantasy. And that's what these people don't understand. It's not about a message. Fuck your damn message. Fuck you. Nobody cares about you. I'm not here for you. I'm here for Halo. And if you're here for something else, get the fuck out. And that's what I have to say with the whole Halo Studios rebranding. Who fucking cares? I don't care what you call yourself. Blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Your actions spoke louder than words, and your actions showed your true color. You were more interested in putting in a Black Pride fucking thing into Halo 3. You were more interested in putting in a LGBTQ flag into Halo 3 than you were with adding anything new to the other Halo games. You literally went back to those games and updated them in the MCC to have these pride flags. You were more concerned with that than addressing bugs and features that were critically missing with Halo CE. You took years to get back on track and fix those bugs. It took years for those I don't even know. Like, there were problems with the shaders, the rendering. Like, they fixed them now, but they were more concerned with pushing a message than they were with fixing the problems that were fundamentally breaking the game.
Actually, wasn't it a fan team that got hired for MCC that fixed everything and not the main team?
It could have been. And that even makes it worse.
I'm pretty sure that is actually the case, because I remember
because the MCC team,
about that.
the MCC team eventually fixed all the problems with Halo Anniversary. To credit to the MCC team. Not only did they fix the problems with that, but they also fixed the problem with Halo 2. And they also started fixing problems with 3 and the other things. So the MCC team did a pretty good job. They also started releasing a lot of the mods and unreleased content, basically digging through the files and source code, and then released that to the general public to play with. But that's the big thing.
Yeah, but that's also not the main 343 or now studio, Halo Studios.
No, it's definitely no. The team working on the MCC is not the main team. That's going to be a completely different team altogether.
I also remember,
but it isn't the ground floor people that's the issue. It's like I've said again, it's management. It is the CEOs, and it's these circles and spheres and the upper echelons that have wormed their way. The rot isn't necessarily at its foundation. The rot is actually at the top of the snake. And that's hold on. That's the key problem. Because it's not just this company. I've worked with and for very large corporations before and near the top. Like, when it comes to these big companies and like CEOs, they hang out at parties and they go to other parties where other big CEOs are, and they share similar like views, and it's these same views that have sort of infused at the top. The ground floor, the place where the artists are and the talent is, each one of those is an individual. But when it comes to the actual like big cheeses, the big cheese is rotten, if that makes sense. And that's why you don't see it isolated. It's not just Halo. It's not just Gears of War. It's not just Age of Empires with censorship. The rot has gotten all the way to its heart. It's at the top. It's at the top in Microsoft. And it's infested. And that is ultimately the problem here. The problem is that no amount of firing the underlings is going to fix the problem of what the top cheeses are doing. The people who should be getting fired are the people in charge. And they're never going to fire themselves. They're never going to fire themselves. They don't fucking care about that. They don't give a shit about that. They'd sooner see everyone underneath them burn. And burn everything around them before fixing anything. That's why this is all bark and no bite. That's why this means nothing. This is just a graphical thing made by artists. Very talented artists. Good job. You did a great job. But sadly, my issue isn't with the artists. The artists are fine. The artists were fine before. They were doing good jobs. It's not the artists that is the issue. The issue is at the top. It's not the 3D modelers that are the issue. The issue is at the top. It's not the animators that are the issue. The issue is at the top. It's the management that's the issue.
Mm-hmm. Actually, on the designers, I believe it's the lead designer went on a rant about anti-gun rant and how much he hates guns.
Yes. They hate guns.
For a shooter.
You shouldn't be involved in game design.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you genuinely are diametrically opposed to guns to such a degree that you have to spout about that, then that's okay. You know what? I have nothing against you personally for not liking guns. If you don't like them, that's your decision. It's your business. I love guns, and I'm gonna have my own guns, and there's nothing you can do to stop me. But if you don't want to have guns, you don't have to have guns, right? Good for you. Good for you. But the big thing is that when it comes to these things, if you don't like guns, don't make games with guns. Go do something else. Go do something else. I know. OBS, the internet's lagging with Restream. One of those days. Oh my god. Or not OBS lagging. Yeah, my internet. I don't know. Upload speed is going up and down, up and down. But either way, we're going to keep going as if nothing's happening, because it's still transmitting. And as long as I'm still transmitting, I'm still ranting. So, when it comes to it, it really boils down to the fact that if you don't want to fucking make games with guns, that's fine. Fuck off. Go make a game without guns. Good for you. But why are you making my game? Why are you making a game that's made for me? If you're not into guns, shooting big giant aliens, then you have no place here. No place here at all, right? If you don't like sci-fi, you have no right to play Halo or be interested in Halo. Go away. If you don't want sci-fi and you hate sci-fi, fuck off. Fuck off. We don't need you. If you don't like, fucking people teabagging people, fuck off. We don't need you. Like, that's really that simple. You either get with the program or you get the fuck out. And that's my issue here. When I look at the people on this team, I see my mom. And I love my mom. But the reality is, my mom hates video games. She more or less is okay with them now, but not anymore. Like, it's one of those things, right? So I expect to see, I would expect not to see my mom in charge of a video game. If she was in charge of Halo, I would be yelling at her loudly, 24/7, right? All the time. That's the big problem. That's the real problem with these things. And that's why I think Halo Studios has nothing. There's nothing here. There's nothing here to be excited for or to look forward to. That's why I'm trying to flatten your expectations. Because too many content creators are too obsessed with trying to tell their chats and their audiences that you should be blindly excited again. You should be, we're so back. No, we aren't back. Until we actually see proof to the contrary, being skeptical and being antagonistic towards this is a good thing. It is a welcome thing. Because it would be far better for Halo to die than to be puppeteered anymore. Right? What has puppeteering really done for the franchise? Nothing. What has it done to make Halo better? Nothing. Halo has not improved at all. I don't want to play Halo Infinite. I don't want to play Halo 5. I don't want to play Halo 4. They're just not good games. They kind of suck. They're just not Halo games. And Halo Reach is kind of like, the last one that was made with Bungie, and that's the last Halo-ish one. And Halo 1, 2, and 3 are Halo games. Like, I don't want to play these fucking trash things. I want to play a real Halo game. And if you're not going to make Halo games, I would rather you go under and go out of business so that a more competent studio can buy you. I would rather see Microsoft burn But that's the reality. Just go away. Just go. Oh my god.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
When it comes to Super Squealy Billy, how caught up are we?
There's been a couple.
Oh, there's a couple that we haven't read yet.
Let's get through them.
I don't think we read Artemis saying Lord Hood was the XO of the Spirit of Fire before transferring, becoming the man he was. He is British royalty. Kiltally SF. Then Holster does $2. They are not spooky, scary skeletons, KT. Terror Team does 50 North Koreans. Didn't Sony also try to make new mascots from Jack, Spyro, Ratchet, Crash, and Sly Cooper? By the way, did you see the Steam gift? And then D, and it's 3 Aussie bucks. Preach, brother, preach.
Thank you for the donation. Now stop reading over them so I can actually answer them. So, when it comes to the mascot thing, yes, that was back in the age of mascot shooters. Mascot shooters aren't really a thing anymore, if that makes sense. That age is since long past. And so that's why that's not really a thing anymore. Now go ahead.
Supposed to interrupt me when you want to actually want to refer to something. And Tier Team does another 15 North Koreans. Kibbs, if you had the money, what 4 or 5 IPs would Ubisoft would you buy?
None. The reality is it'd be like inheriting a train wreck. I don't want any of their IPs. To put it bluntly. Like, how could I put it? Because the reality is that there's no one I could trust anyways, even if I had them, right? I guess the only reason why I would take them, I would take the 4, I'd take like Assassin's Creed, I'd take Anno, I'd take Far Cry. No, walk that back. I'd take Ground Control, I'd take World in Conflict, I would take Anno, and I know Ubisoft made something else I liked. Fuck
Spore.
It. They made Spore? That's EA.
No, that's not Ubisoft.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Silly Beano.
I'll just take Assassin's Creed because I could hand that off to somebody probably better. But the reality is that I don't know anybody to hand them off to that I think would be competent with that amount of resources to make a AAA budget game, right?
Beano.
Yeah.
Beano on Spore.
I would I would make Assassin's Creed in Japan that would actually sell. So like.
Well, the thing is, how would you do that, right? So it's like, okay, you take these things, but do you have the resources to do it? It's like, I don't. Like, what am I gonna do with these things? Just, I guess sell them.
That's when I go and get a loan for, like.
Yeah, you get a loan.
Gamble, you know.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's just not happening. But yeah.
We have between alphas, we have 8 working kidneys, you know.
Well, the reality is I'd take World in Conflict because World in Conflict I like. Ground Control I also think is cool. I always thought the Massive Entertainment games were really cool. Which is why when I found out Massive Entertainment was still alive as a studio and they made Star Wars Outlaws, it broke my heart. Because Massive Entertainment made two of my very close to being like, oh, Ground Control is cool. I liked it, but I don't know if it's my most favorite. World in Conflict's up there. World in Conflict is spiritually successor to Ground Control.
Ubisoft has Anno, As Creed, Brother in Arms, Call of Juarez, the CSI games. Apparently there's only like 1 or 2. Driver, Far Cry, Heroes of Might and Magic apparently.
Oh yeah.
Heroes of
Just
Might and Magic
Dance, Prince of Persia, NFL, a couple of them. Rabbids, if you
oh god.
Oh, Rayman.
if you can even remember those.
Rayman. Yeah, Rayman was cool.
Rayman, yep. The Settlers, Tom Clancy games, Trackmania, Trials,
the thing is,
Warlords, and Watch Dogs.
Ubisoft, EA, all the Titans used to have a golden age. That golden age was like in the 2000s. We don't really talk about Ubisoft's golden age, but their golden age has long since passed them, much like EA. Like, it's gone. It's gone. What can you do, little chat bros? Imagine the Anno in the mixer setting. It would be fucking amazing. Unironically, it'd be fucking epic.
All right, well,
We're
Anno
being
mixers
barbarian
when?
against the game.
Never, but it's never gonna happen.
Maybe Shody Bilberg, yeah.
The Titans
what are you
are
making other
dead,
games?
says Abaddon. Well, no, the Titan companies aren't dead. They're still kicking. That's the problem. That's the problem. And they'll be
just
kicking
decrepit corpses that are still moving somehow.
Well, they're moving because they make shit tons of money. Well, sometimes. Ubisoft is finally catching up to them. Mediocrity only works for so long. And it only takes one massive fuck up to fuck over mediocrity. But yeah, when it comes to back to Halo Studios, that's why
Yes,
I think
want to talk about the engine then.
before we talk about the engine, I don't think Halo Studios is any different. Case in point is this lady. Like, for example, I'm not talking about just her appearance. Like, she may look like a stereotype, and
she is.
and the reality is she actually is a stereotype. Her actual profile is literally just that.
And she's the chief of staff.
Yeah, she's the chief of staff. Like, she literally is just LGBTQ, like, narrative bullshit. Like, she's just trash. She's a nobody. She's literally garbage. And you have garbage in your company. Like, you need to take this garbage and you need to throw it away. And find somebody more talented, with more skills, who actually cares.
The biggest thing that I see wrong with these people in the industry, right? These stereotypes like her, is that okay? I don't want you to like go hungry and get no work, but like, why don't you make a franchise that's already like, I hate to use the word, but woke like she wants?
Because
Why doesn't she go?
No,
to
okay, so we can answer this really quickly. So the reality
like-
is, you know, this is fucking obvious. This person has no talent and could never do it to begin with.
they just need to subvert something that already
Yes.
exists to preach their message.
You literally,
it's one of those.
no, that's it, Bino. That's all there is to it.
I want
Also,
you to think about Volcano High and what was the other fucking
They
one called?
they can't
Dustborn?
Dustborn. They can't make anything new. They tried that and they failed. The only thing they can do is slip into larger companies and hijack someone else's work. That's the only thing they will do. Saying like
Also-
maybe they should do something, they're not gonna do that. They don't care. They don't-
some of them could definitely afford to
It's not about making games
not
either.
eat a bit.
The reason why is that has
Yeah.
nothing to do with it either. The reality is that it's entirely about promoting the message. That's all that matters to them. That's it. It's promote ideology, and that is it. That's the only fucking thing that matters to them. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else matters. They don't want to make games, Bina. They don't want to make stories. They don't want to make
Yeah, no,
settings.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me or the people around me. But like, I would be sad if I knew I was working on something that would suck. Just
They
to,
don't
like,
care if it
push on-
sucks.
Yeah, that's the thing. But like you need to be a sad person if you like working on something that sucks and making.
It's not that they're sad, all right? So quit trying to contextualize them as if they're us, because they're not. So
Says if they're human.
yeah, no, it's not even. They are human, but here's how they think, right? It isn't about making a good game, a game you can be proud of. When Westwood presented Red Alert 2 to the world and said, "Proudly presents Command and Conquer Red Alert 2," they were proud about it. They don't care about Halo. They don't care if it's good, and the state of it, whether it's improved or not improved, doesn't matter. It is only about the political aspect. This is why people who think politically are a disease, because they are just here to push an agenda. It's not about a game. It's not about the game being good. It's not about Master Chief. It's not about his story. It's not about the gamers and what they want. It's about what they want. And all they want to do is they have this thing in their mind where they think that because I put thing in game, that will make them naturally want that thing too. And that doesn't work that way. You can draw a picture of, you know, Jesus and have him holding up an atheist book and doing like, I like this. And like people who are religious aren't going to give a shit. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't. Because it's not what people believe. It's not what people think or feel. It's completely different. It's never been about it. It's never had anything to do with it. And I think that at its core is its fundamental issue. Jano joins 25 Polish bucks says, B-Note, your criteria for what makes a good game don't overlap with theirs. Exactly. Sock Fun, Save Tally, MM7, Pull Reggie's Tail. I'm feeling mean today. Boxes. That's the spirit, you cranky little
Metal
guy.
boxes.
So the big thing is, right, when you want to understand what matters and what doesn't, you need to close your eyes for but a moment and think about this. The only thing that matters is that Halo is about Halo. And then open your eyes. That's it. The only thing that matters is that Halo is about Halo. That's it. That's the only thing that matters. The details will take care of themselves. Because if you're naturally trying to make a better Halo game, you'll naturally be like, all right, we want to do justice by Chief's character. Like, we want to do justice by the UNSC as a faction. We want to do justice by the Covenant as a faction. You're going to naturally be on the right steps. What should we do? Let's build on top of the multiplayer. Let's make a new Forge mode. You know, Helldivers is pretty cool. Maybe we should make a multiplayer mode that's kind of inspired by it, but mixed with Firefight, so that we add something new and fresh.
One thing that they could do with like Halo that Helldivers can't, they could have like kind of like a Horde versus Alliance thing where like it's Helldivers, but like you can either choose to be like the Halo, like the ODST, or like the elites or something for the Covenant, right? And depending on which side you are, the war is like basically gonna have the true.
I mean, they could try something like that, but the big thing is that they gotta understand asymmetry. The one thing that the Covenants have that's cool when it comes to a shooter, and gotta think about a game design, right? So game design, there's a couple things you need to think about in terms of shooter games that make games good. When it comes to shooter games, it's your gunplay. How do your guns feel? Are they responsive? Do they hit well? Do they have good mechanics? Next thing, ask yourself, how is the enemy design? The enemy design is actually one of the most important things next to the gun design of the game. These are the two core things to get done right, because your enemy design will decide how the game's going to play. Do we just have goons with guns, or do we have ruts that are little dudes that panic when the leaders are killed? They have elites. They have an overshield. They're very commanding, and they don't really panic. They can scream, and that's their like one weak point they have, and that they like cry out in rage and blood fury, you know. And then we have jackals, and jackals carry little personal shields that are immune to bullets, and they are slightly exposed when you look at their feet and where they sort of aim their gun through their like hoplite like shaped shield. And then we have hunters. Hunters work in pairs, and their backs are usually the most exposed and least armored part about them. And so that's the thing that have these different aspects about them. So focus on the parts that are good. And that's basically the thing when it comes to this. Is it good? Is it fun?
Also, for what your suggestion, I'd rather see you actually play an ODST, not just Barton, and the other side plays a jackal.
That doesn't matter. That's just details. That's like detail stuff. The big thing first is don't focus on details. Don't be autistic. Focus on the grand movements. The grand movements the details are something you can hash out later when it comes to fixing problems. The core issues are big, and they must be taken care of first before anything else can be done. That's the real problem. That's why it's important to never focus on the little details until after the main problems are solved, which is something that Halo desperately needs to sort out. And that's one of the other problems, is that they're not doing that. They aren't doing any of that. They just simply don't care.
Oh, did it crash again?
No, it didn't.
It's just YouTube being YouTube.
No, it's Blake being Blake.
Ignore it. But yes, when it comes to that, that's kind of pretty much everything there. Now, let's talk about the engine.
Isn't one of the issues with them going on Unreal 5 it might become a little bit too like generic compared with other shooters, you know? Unless they heavily modify the stuff, because that's one of the issues I see with
part of the reason, and I think this might actually be one of the more main reasons, that they're switching to Unreal 5 is because it's too hard and takes too much time for them to train new people on their in-house engine.
So if you already know Unreal 5, they'll
Yes, and so when they bring in the new people and new contractors, they don't have to train them on the engine. They can really get to work. That's also why Infinite had such development hell, because while they're making this engine, they would rotate people in and out, which means that now the new people who are going to also work on the engine have to learn everything about it before they can even start. So that made development just take forever and dragged it out. And so now, because from them switching this kind of tells me that they're keeping that mentality of not building a core team and just rotating people in and out, or like from the low level, like the programmers. They'll just be hiring them for 6 months and then they'll switch out a new one.
Oh, that's so, the issue though. They'll never like have a...
Yes, so they aren't going to actually build up their core team. It's just going to be the people in upper management that stay the same. So the quality of the game won't ever actually improve besides just basic Unreal game, basically. Is probably what will happen.
Yep. It will probably improve the production speed, so there might not be as many cut features. But even if you look at Halo Infinite, if there wasn't the cut co-op campaign, would that have fixed anything?
No.
If they had more time, would that have fixed the problem with the open world sandbox?
Nope, because the problems are inherent to the team.
Yep.
And their engine.
It's like, it's well, not even the engine. It's that it didn't like the problem was Halo's best map in the franchise is Silent Cartographer. Silent Cartographer is unironically just the Undisputed King map. It is because it's open, you can explore it, but it's also focused, as in you have a clear direction of what you need to do and where you need to go. It's big, open, there's vehicles, you can sort of tackle problems a little bit how you want to, and that's it. If you look at Helldivers 2, all you got to look at is compare Silent Cartographer to Helldivers 2. Helldivers 2 took basically the Silent Cartographer map. Well, they didn't take that map, but they take their similar ideas. It's like Silent Cartographer's map, but a little bit more open. Actually, no, completely open with which objectives you tackle in what order. You can do all the side objectives, or you can do the primary mission objectives, and that's it. That's the order, and that's really cool because it allows you to choose how you want to go about it, what you want to do, what you want to tackle, what you don't want to tackle. That's
You're able to pick your engagements a bit.
Yep, and that's what makes it really, really cool. Now, what else, Zumba? What else?
Well, so like I was saying, like the whole thing with Infinite's development time. Like I remember hearing about them cycling out, or Microsoft more or less cycling out people in 343 every 6 months, which meant so like their engine, because they made the comment about they don't have the competency to work on an engine and a game at the same time. They probably could have if they weren't doing that practice of cycling people in and out constantly. So they could have actually done good with the slipspace engine if they actually bothered to build up a team working on the engine. And with them deciding that we can't do that and just scrapping the entire thing, and now just Unreal, it's just gonna, yes, they're gonna make pretty looking graphics and CGI for like cutscenes and stuff, sure. Ultimately, it's gonna lead, I can almost guarantee you, to the game just becoming less optimized, more bloated, and just more generic.
Yep, because if you're just cycling team members out, that's another massive thing, right? When it came to studios and culture, this is actually a bad thing in the industry. Artists should never leave a studio they're working for, nor should anyone. They should actually be sticking around. There should be a focus on sticking to teams and team loyalty. I should unironically, I have this view. If you're not committed to our project, I don't want to work with you. You either commit yourself to the same degree as everyone else, or you go away. You need to be committed, and you have to be committed. Because if you treat projects as little gigs, you're not in it. You're just replaceable. You're literally a nobody. You don't matter. Because you yourself said you don't matter. Make yourself matter. Commit. Show that you care. If I worked on Halo, I'd commit to Halo. That means that Everything I do is in the pursuit of bettering Halo. Halo is my livelihood now. Halo is my future. Halo is everything. So that means that I need to commit myself 110% to everything that makes Halo great. That's what it should be about. But the reality is this is how the industry has been and still is. People are cycled out of companies almost as quickly as they enter. And this comes from the fact that there's no incentive for these studios to retain people. This is why indie studios often are the better studios when it comes to products and reliability. When it comes to certain things, at least the established ones. Because often they retain the same people they start with or tried their best to. Because it's like breaking up the band. Your team is your band. You are rock stars. You need to produce quality content. And if I were to lose my art director, it would be a blow. It would change the art direction of everything in our setting, in our studio. Incredibly so. Like, nothing would be the same. Like, they all are important. Any loss is massive. And they need to be loyal. Loyalty is not, what's the word? It's not something you ask for, it's expected. If you aren't loyal, then I'm not going to be there to support you when you're down on your, luck. Because that's how I view teams, right? When it came to team members in our own studio, if something bad happened to one of our team members, I was there for them. They're my family. I will be there for all of them, no matter what. If our studio were to fall apart, I would do my best as the ship sinks to go down honorably, but also trying to push them up above the waterline so that they could get onto someplace else. Because at the end of the day, that's how this should be. We are all ships in a crazy sea. And sometimes we make it. Sometimes we make great games like Halo 1, 2, and 3. But if we sink, Captain goes down with the ship. And that's how it should be. Because the reality is that studios need to treat themselves with a little bit of respect, to hold themselves up. You're not just a video game, you're something more. When you look at Halo, I don't think of it's just a video game. It is something more. Yes, it is a video game, but it's got more to it than that. There are experiences I had when playing it, inspirations, moments I shared with friends that I will never get in another game like that again. In the same vein with Helldivers 2. There are certain things I did with friends in those games and moments we shared that were completely unique, completely special. And that's what makes them more than just a disc inside a plastic box. Because they are more than just that. They are more than just a sum of pixels, on a screen. They carry more weight. And it's why it's incredibly important that these studios see it that way as well. But the reality is that they don't. They don't care. None of them care. None of them want that.
It's just a business.
It's just a business, and it's about pushing their own agendas. None of them care. That girl with the funky hair, her priorities aren't wrong, or aren't right. And like I said when I first pointed it out, like, she doesn't belong here. If you're not about Halo first, you don't belong here. If you're a channel dedicated to gaming and you talk about politics all the time, you don't belong in gaming. Leave out. Get out. You are a hack. You are a tourist. If you cover politics instead of gaming and you claim to be a gamer, fuck off. You're not real. You're literally just another fucking poser. That's all you ever will be. And that's the problem. It's all about the agenda. This is why it's incredibly important that we establish this as a issue that is a issue specifically from everyone. We are all gamers. Your personal opinions, your personal tastes are none of my business. And that's why it's super important. It's why it's important you look at companies as family. Family is important. It's something that I stress deeply, and that I would go to hell and back again for any of my team members, because they all matter, because they are family. We are. You got to look out for each other. You got to be there for each other when times are rough. This sort of corporate culture of just looking at it as a job cannot be allowed to stand. It shows because games that are developed like this feel corporate. They feel schlocky. They feel safe and sanitized. Because you know why? They don't want to have a blemish on their record. They're there for the paycheck. They're not there to build a legacy. When you make a game, you should be here to build a legacy, to create something unique. It's why I'm an indie dev. It's my project that I'm doing with my stuff, and it's what you should be doing too. Whether you're AAA or not, it doesn't matter. You should be here to build a legacy. This is something that will last the test of time. You will inspire future pop culture. These games are decades, becoming decade old now. There are games that are older than that, older than 30 years and 20 years. And their impact is so massive, it's indescribable. Incredibly important.
It is. And the kind of silly thing of this whole corporate mindset of them like cycling people in and out, it's just a job, like there's no passion needed in it. It's, and Reguline, you could probably confirm or deny this, From Software, they've retained, as far as I'm aware, their core like developers in there, and those core developers, by working in the same company for years, have been building up their skills working on these projects, and now their quality just improves over time.
It's iterative.
From Software went from like a AA developer to a proper AAA like star in the last couple of years.
And that's
they weren't shit until Dark Souls 3 came out, and then after that they just fucking exploded.
They
became a zeitgeist on their own.
They got a little bit of a chance with Dark Souls 1, and that's when they grabbed that chance and they started building it. And I think Bloodborne was also, even though like I think Bloodborne is a good game but flawed. Like Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 were the two, I would say. Sekiro was pretty interesting.
But my point being that FromSoft is the perfect example of why you keep your team and you build them up instead of just cycling people up, because you get better products and you get just better quality, just everything out of it. And it's not like it's costing you more in the long run. It's anything that's probably just better, because now you're not having to bloat the team up to make up for the fact that you have now 6 new people who have to be trained.
Or there's like 300 people in the studio. Yeah, because the reality is that you want people to be loyal. Loyalty and family is an incredibly important aspect of a studio. It is paramount. And I know it sounds funny and memeable, and you know what, fuck it, turn it into a goddamn meme, because maybe that'll just make it help impact better, right? But family is something you hold dear to your heart. You're there for them in their time of need, they're there for you. It's why studios should become families again. And this is something that should be seen again, because you shouldn't be like, oh yeah, this is a joke, by the way, Carlos. Oh yeah, Carlos, we can probably look into replacing him, next project. Or maybe like, halfway through next year, yeah, go ahead and finish up your work, get the fuck out. And then find the next cheap guy. And then like you see the problem with that mentality? Like, okay, well now Carlos is like, well, all right, I've invested my soul and heart into this, and now it doesn't matter anymore. And the reality is that it just doesn't matter. Like, he's like, oh, well, I'm not going to give it my best. The speech I gave to my team members that got them onto the project is the same speech I pretty much give to everyone. We're all committed to this. You want a legacy, and a legacy that will prove and stand the test of time, then let's do this together. You will be the one who, with every stroke of your brush, will determine what this world looks like. It is you that pioneered that. Only you can do that. And that will be your legacy with this project. Robert, your music is what will shape the world and the melodies that they're in. This music will define culture, theme, mood, and atmosphere forever. Just in the same vein as Salah's illustrations. Your illustrations will literally be the illustrations that define our setting. The concept work, all of this stuff, without any of it, would have no soul. And it's this soul that I believe in, and that I will always believe in, going forward, as I've always done, is that this soul is what makes our game better than everyone else's. And any other indie game, what makes their game better than everyone else's too, is that their game has a goddamn soul. It's more than that. Like when I look at the music for Halo 1 and 2 and 3, you can close your eyes and you can hear it. It's Martin O'Donnell's music. When you think of our Bickering Bunch music, and I close my eyes, the music you're listening to right now, this is Robert's work. This is his soul. Our stuff, everything we do, whether it's a podcast or anything, has always been built with soul as a core mindset. Down to the code, down to the literal overlay, down to the literal avatar I'm using right now. These artists I intend to retain forever, or as long as I possibly can, God willing. Before they eventually, if they decide to leave, good on them. Of course.
Leave their mortal coil behind.
Yeah, because I'll be killing him.
The Carlos won't die. He'll just become a big bird
This
woman.
NDA says that you can never say it. And I'll make sure of that.
The Carlos is 90. He's like, oh, finally, the sweet embrace of death. Then he opens his eyes again. What? Oh yeah, here in your contract, like we can put you into the brain jar and keep you.
I don't mean to annoy you, Albine, but I did catch Kibbs the one time practicing necromancy.
Necromancy? I see.
Necromancy. He's summoning Nekos to try and replace Aerith with a real Neko.
Oh, fair enough.
Uh-huh. No, yeah, I agree with what Kib says.
Yep, because the big thing is it's about mom and pop shop mentality, right? And because my family, when it comes to businesses, I've worked for family business after family business after family business. And there's something about that. And when I did work for like Burger King as a part-timer, like literally having the VP fucking come in and commend me for my work was something that was just weird. It was just weird. And that was just a part-timer, because the thing is, it's all about the mentality, right? It's something my dad taught me, and it's something that my uncles taught me when I worked with them. When you work at a place, you should work with pride and work with, like you have a sense of pride. I'll do my damnedest and my best, and it may not be perfect, but it'll be the best I can do wherever I go, so that everywhere I go, I leave a legacy, and that legacy is that I tried. I did my best. And that's the most important thing, is doing your best work all the time. Being there for your team members, being a team player, backing up your teammates. You see, I had a best friend of mine, fucking had to close the store on his own. Oh my God. Stupid OBS. I hate this thing so much.
Again? Damn.
Yeah, I know, right? I just can't catch a break, man. I think I'm gonna commit skibicide, unironically.
Yeah.
Maybe you should look at an alternative.
Honestly,
There are
is there
none. Any? Yeah, there are none.
Is it actually frozen? Is it actually? I don't know if chat hears anything. It looks frozen.
Let me speed up the stream and see if it actually pauses for me, because it's still going for me. Nope, there it goes.
It's frozen.
No, it's still going for me.
It's still frozen? Why is the screen frozen?
Did you say it's back?
The stream is still going for me.
What the fuck?
Let me see. Let me click.
Something fucky. Alright, let's log that. The preview screen locks up.
Okay.
They're not acting like it's frozen. Alright, well, there's those 15 minutes of me talking about is it frozen? Because it looked frozen. Whatever. Either way.
It's just lagging.
Either way, moving on. So, the big thing is that when it comes to the soul stuff, having soul is putting your heart into something and actually putting an effort into something. This is something you either do or you don't. And in this case, they don't. They're going to replace these people, these new people in Halo Studio. It's just a rebranding of the name. Same core fundamental issues. Nothing has changed. Nothing has improved. It is more or less the same. And this is why it's so important to talk about, because I've seen so many content creators say that we are back and that it is back. There's no proof of it. Unlike with Helldivers 2, Helldivers, no, they aren't tourists. That's the issue. The people that say this, okay, so I can talk about this a little bit. So the reason why people like to say this is because they have a vested interest in it succeeding, right? Why do they have a vested interest in Halo succeeding? Their entire channel is dedicated to Halo, meaning that all their cards are in one bag. They are going to say the party line as the ship sinks, because it is the only way to get clicks, rather than saying the truth, rather than realizing that, hey, this franchise Kind of sucks. Maybe it's time to move on, but it's risky and it's scary. And I don't blame them for that. It is scary. It is very scary to have your channel dedicated to one subject or thing and then find out that that thing is coming to an end. That's terrifying. I feel for you. But you should be honest and you should start trying to work over to your next hobby, your next point of interest. It might be time to consider moving on. And this is incredibly, incredibly important. Something that these people really need to figure out. Yeah, I think the stream is like delayed because now they're saying, I hear Gibby.
Yes, it's very delayed.
Yeah, okay. So we're just super behind. Oh, there's a massive delay. All right, well, I now know how to judge that. Either way, Chatfish, we're back. Chatfish, we know you're. We know, we love you. All right, we'll try to get this fixed. By the way, we've been trying so many things, and so many things have failed. It's not even funny. It's been an absolute nightmare.
Everyone I know has issues with like.
Whatever.
OBS
Moving on.
being
Moving on.
shit.
Drop it.
No, it's really
Drop it. Drop it. Because we're here for the subject. So the big thing is that when it comes to Halo, the reality is that there's nothing to really look forward to, because there's nothing that's changed. Now, it doesn't mean you should be black-pilled and not look at it at all. Just look at it and judge for yourself when the time comes. But don't buy into this false hope, because all it's going to do is actually, give you depression. It's gonna fucking be really sour when it hits, right? So don't let that consume you. Don't be blind to it, and just go in with level-headed expectation. It's probably gonna be shit. It's probably not gonna be good. It's probably gonna be bad. It's the reality. But if it is, oh well, don't buy it. There's other games, Helldivers 2. There's other shooters around the corner too. Just buy them instead. Play the old games. Play mods on the old games.
Play boomer shooters. Like there's a zillion of them.
For a moment there, I thought you were gonna say play fucking Fish Christians. I was getting mad at you.
Nah,
I should have.
He missed his opportunity, and now he'll be destroyed. But yeah. What else? Does anyone else have anything to add?
No.
That's all we had to mention about for the engine and whatnot.
So that's it.
And
You done? You drained?
Unreal's bad.
yeah,
Halo
Unreal bad.
is still controlled by 343 by a new name.
Yeah, that's true.
I just want.
Don't get hopes up.
Yeah, Unreal is not a bad. The engine
It's
is
an
not
awful
bad,
engine.
But every engine is bad, man. That's the issue. Like I hear that every fucking engine. Chatfishes. Like I was studying which engine to use for years, right?
They are bad.
For fish quest. Yeah, and every time I might use this one. No, don't use it. It's horrible. It's the worst thing. You're going to want to squeak side. It's like okay.
So the big thing about Unreal, right,
Yeah.
is that Unreal is really good to use if you already sort of don't know too much about how to make games, because it's got a lot of like things that you can connect together and pre-made things that you can use.
Also, if you have a very strong computer.
But the big problem with Unreal is that Unreal is not very flexible by comparison. It is very rigid, and so it's like if to give you a different perspective, the Frostbite engine that was designed for Battlefield, it was designed to make Battlefield games and Battlefield games only. And when they tried to make a new engine, or not make a new engine, when EA basically mandated that every company, all the new games, were to use Frostbite, they all did. And so Anthem and Mass Effect and Dragon Age and more all had to use the Frostbite engine. Command & Conquer, an RPG, a fantasy, fucking game, and then you had an RTS game and a third-person shooter, all being made for this engine that was only designed for Battlefield games. It went pretty poorly for all those games. Anthem, not so good. Fucking Dragon Age Inquisition, pretty bad. Fucking, Anthem, or not Anthem, the other one, Mass Effect Andromeda, disaster. Command & Conquer Generals 2, Command & Conquer Generals 2, disaster as well. Because again, while it sounds great on paper, yeah, let's all put all these games on this one engine The engine wasn't designed to do it. Unreal doesn't really make good RTSs. It just doesn't. Like, every RTS I've played that's made on it is kind of just crappy. It's got this crappy feel to it. It just doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. And the problem Unreal has is that Unreal looks pretty on the surface, but it has this tackiness to it that feels weird. Versus the old Unreals felt so much better. I don't know.
Every game made in Unreal 5 looks almost identical to me.
They do. Like, they have no visual identity some of the times. Like, the problem with the Halo art, when I saw the 3D work or pictures of the 3D stuff, is that it just looks kind of like Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, that's what that looks like.
Like without any of the architecture, that looks like any.
Like, they all look the same. There's
anything.
no art style to it. It's just kind of like, okay, it's like some rocks and some trees with high polys and good texture.
The only thing that's remotely Halo-esque is the structure, and even then, that still kind of doesn't look that Halo-y.
The big problem, I think, here is that they're not wanting to do art style anymore. There's no art. Like, there is and there isn't. Like, this is a bit the coolest thing that you think you see, but it's all just globbles. Globbles.
So this also happens because, like, we are, how many years now they had these kinds of like incompetent people have been just like at the industry. There's a lot of jobs that got closed forever because like they were so incompetent, the people that got that were there, that like no one else is going to get another chance at that particular job, you know. That's why they want to use AI. So like not only they were passing over people in hiring prospects that could have been like, they could be making the new Halo, like the next big thing, right? But now those people never get a chance in the big industry because like I would rather pay an AI to do a shitty job than pay someone to do a shitty job. You get what I mean?
In the scenes on the people, when the people are talking, there's concept art in the background for some of these. Some of this concept art that's like in the studio doesn't look Halo at all.
And those is just environments. But the problem is that high fidelity is not important.
Well, I'm not talking about them showing the in-engine stuff. Like when it's the people talking, there's like posters and stuff behind them.
Well, yeah, because they
like
don't have any
concept.
artist retention. Like, how many of the original artists from the original Bungie are still here? None. As far as I'm aware.
Bungie's not 343.
Yeah, like,
because Bungie aren't even there.
Yeah, well, that's the issue. Bungie isn't here. And the issue, again, is Microsoft, because Microsoft scared away their golden goose. Like a bunch of morons. They tormented them. To the point where Bungie didn't want to be there anymore, and Bungie wanted to leave. Bungie wanted out. Bungie was sick of it.
Make a different
and
game?
then Bungie fled to Activision and Sony, and that went disastrously. Like, the reality is that Bungie's also no longer the same company anymore. The Bungie that fled is now not the same Bungie. Even if Microsoft got them to come back, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be Halo. The people who made Halo are gone. And because they're gone, like, Martin O'Donnell is, like, running for Congress and stuff. And, well, you know, good for him. Like, I think it kind of sucks because, like, I like his music, you know? And it's
they tried to screw him over, didn't they?
I think so. They also did that for, like, Bethesda did that with, was it Gordon?
Yeah, I know Bethesda. I think Martin O'Donnell, the same kind of thing happened where they, like, were trying to not pay him.
Yep, because Mick Gordon got fucked over, too, for Doom. Like, fucked over hard. And that's why Doom Eternal's music kind of sucks. Because it was all, like, shittily put together.
Yeah, that
and
art
it wasn't finished. Well, yeah, that art isn't Halo. It's literally artsy-fartsy bullshit.
But, like, there was an elite there and, like, Marines, like, but that's not Halo style at all.
That's not really that important because that's just like motivational posters, right?
Yeah, that's just what I'm getting at. Like, the motivational posters that is there for them to be looking at, like, does it even have a Halo aesthetic?
No, it has Halo stuff on it, but that's not as big or as important. The big important issue isn't the little minor things like that. It's the actual core issue, which is leadership. Leadership is corrupt. And because we have a corrupt leadership, everything else doesn't matter. They can wear Halo shirts, they can wear Halo art, they can put up old concept art. It wouldn't change a damn thing. That art has nothing to do with anything. It's merely just art in the background. $5, Master Chief will take his helmet off in this one. I think the video games know better than not to do that. The problem with Paramount, or whatever the fuck made the Halo show, is that they fucking didn't understand that.
They didn't care.
They didn't care.
Yeah.
Like, Master Chief taking his helmet off is one of the most rancid fucking moments, because it shows a fundamental misunderstanding of the character, and it also doesn't just show that, it shows that Pablo Schreiber is a fucking hack. You are not an actor. You are a talentless little bitch. And you are a talentless bitch because you aren't a real actor. A real actor would not take his helmet off. A real actor would man the fuck up and not be a little whiny bitch because your face wasn't there. Your job is to dance for my fucking amusement. Shut the fuck up. You don't matter. If you want to matter, you need to be like Christopher fucking Lee. You need to be a real actor, a real man, or, you know, woman if you're an actress.
Which you know, you know what? There's a very old example that destroys all the retarded stuff where I need to show my face, otherwise the audience is not going to know it's me or care. Like, man,
they're more concerned about stardom.
No. Yeah.
Well, yes, they are. So the big thing is the face thing.
Darth Vader, for example. No. But for example, sorry, it was just a second. Darth Vader. I never seen that motherfucker's face. Everyone loved the voice actor, the actor.
Well, they showed the face actually.
No. But over here, no one saw.
Well, no, that they did. They did.
Vader's
Return of the Jedi.
Vader's an interesting thing. Because that character is actually like 3 or 4 different people.
Yeah, but most people that like the voice of Vader and are fans of the actor don't even know their face. I can say that at least.
Okay, so let's explain, because you don't know, and I know you don't know Star Wars. So when it comes to Return of the Jedi, they show his face first of all, and he's voiced by James Earl Jones, who's a black dude. So the black dude does the voice, and he's actually a different dude when he's in the helmet. And the actual actor is some very tall and large Scottish man, if I remember right. And so it's actually just a couple different actors all in one. All playing the same character. But they showed us his face, Bino. Like,
okay.
They showed it in Return of the Jedi. You little tourist.
On them potentially showing Chief's face in the next game. Because in the other Halo games, like, he beat the game on Legendary, they would be like,
he takes off his helmet.
What was it? Easy. Well, that's in CE. He just takes it off and it covers off. I think it was it 4? You see his eyes if you beat him on Legendary.
Which is dumb. That's still bad.
Yeah, it was. I don't remember if there's anything like that at the end of 5, and I never beat Infinite.
They should never show us who Chief is, because who Chief isn't important. If that makes sense. Chief is Chief. And that's all that matters. Not who he was, not what he looks like, not what race he is, or what eye color he has. None of that matters. None of that makes Chief Chief. The Last Dread movie was good? Yes, the Last Dread movie was good. And that's because Carl Urban is a man. He is an actor. A real actor.
And he actually respected the character.
He is such a goddamn... Okay, so Carl Urban deserves a little bit of fellatio here for one core reason. Okay, champ? Listen, sit your little bucket fins down. So, Carl Urban is the actor who literally refused to take off the character's helmet for playing Dredd, because Dredd would never take off his helmet under any circumstance. He never did it in the comics, and so he's not doing it here. And so Carl Urban was a man about it, and it's like, no. The helmet stays on. Like, it's not coming off. I'm not removing this under any circumstance. And there's no romance in this either, because I think they tried to do like a romance thing, and he's like, no.
They wanted to do a romance between Lady Cop and
like
Judge Dredd.
And like, he's like, nope, that's not Judge's character. Judge Dredd would never do that.
He would not get into a romance with an inferior.
Well, a subordinate. This
Yeah,
was,
sorry.
is the term I
I
would
don't know.
use.
She was kind of inferior.
Wrong word. Sorry. I was thinking superior, inferior. No. Subordinate. God damn it.
Yeah, she
I've
was.
never seen the Carl Urban movie. I just realized.
We could do a watch along of it maybe tonight after stream.
I've seen that movie like 5 times.
That's a good
That's a
movie.
good
Mostly in Discord,
Wait,
by the way.
wait.
People
There's a
keep
couple.
watching.
The only criticism I have for that movie is that any of the slow-mo scenes are kind of annoying because they interrupt the flow of the movie. And the reason why the slow-mo scenes are annoying is because they were made for 3D glasses sections. Those are the sections that I wish they didn't have, because the slow-mo sections and the slow-mo drug for the 3D part just makes the movie feel weird. And there are some random scenes that are like hyper fixated on it, and those scenes are often the weak parts of the movie.
There was a good
no.
segment. It was just the part where the guy was getting thrown off a ledge.
But the movie was made with the intention of it being viewed in 3D.
That one was the one with the blonde psychic, right?
Yep, the blonde psycho.
Okay, then I saw that one. I didn't see the other one.
I mean,
Oh,
even
the
though with
1980 movie, Sylvester Stallone. The Sylvester
that one's
Stallone one
special.
is not good because Sylvester Stallone takes off his helmet, which breaks the character, Judge Dredd. He
Also-
would never do
But
that.
it is funny. It's where we also
bike
get
is
I am the
great.
law.
The movie is charming. The way you should view the Sylvester Stallone 1980s Judge Dredd is you should view it as or is it 1990? I think it might be 1990. Either way, view it.
Night 5.
Yeah, view it as a movie that's more about the Judge Dredd universe, not necessarily about Judge Dredd himself, and that the actual character isn't actually Judge Dredd. He's some other dude, a different judge.
Yeah.
It's still a fun movie though. Still recommend it because it's fun. It's funny, and plus it's got fucking Stallone and the other actor. They have a good rapport with each other whenever they do stuff. It makes it fun. The little skinny, sort of like Weasley guy.
Well, now we need to watch these older movies. The original the original Dredd.
But yeah, Carl
maybe
Urban is
RoboCop.
Carl Urban's a real actor, and that's the big thing. That's why the Halo TV show sucked so bad. Like, I cannot describe to you, Chatfish, how bad Halo TV show sucked. Like, I watched it, and I shouldn't have. There's nothing to be gained. It's not about Halo. It has nothing to do with Halo. And its core problem is that it does things that aren't completely unnecessary. Like, Captain Keyes is black. Like, okay, but why did we race swap him? Where's Sergeant Johnson? He was a black character. Where's he? He's not even in the fucking show. Sergeant Johnson's one of the coolest fucking characters in the fucking game. And, like, he's nowhere to be found. He's so charismatic. He's so fucking great on scene. He's a badass. And, oh my god.
You know the reason they swapped him instead of doing Johnson.
Well, the reason is that they didn't want to make it about Halo. That's the reason. Because if you watch the show, it has nothing to do with Halo. The writer wants to tell their own story and is just using the cosmetic of Halo to tell their own story. It literally has nothing to do with Halo. At all. Like, they have Chief's armor, they talk about Chief, they have the names, but the names have nothing to do with each other. Cortana's not Cortana, Chief isn't Chief, Kelly isn't Kelly, none of the other Spartans are Spartans.
Well, yeah, he's not Chief, he's Master Cheeks.
Yeah, Master Cheeks.
Cheeks.
Oh my god, that was so funny. Yeah, I don't know what's the obsession with eye torture in shows lately, and like ass cheek shots of dudes. Like, every game has like an ass cheek shot of guys for some reason. And it's like,
It's because that's what the developers crave.
it's like,
That's
look
the
at this
message.
man's asses, and I'm like, I would rather not.
Yeah. That's the master.
Buckabyss says Kamigawa misses why they showed Chief's face at the end of Halo 4. It shows Chief's tungsten chest armor falling off, and then removing his helmet while only revealing his eyes.
It was still bad.
It was still bad.
Yeah, screams enigmatic dude.
But the actual purpose of Master Chief is that he is the player. He is you.
Well,
That's
yeah,
the whole purpose.
Rob Schneider. Yeah, that's the one. It's funny how
Schneider.
far behind Chatfish is. It's funny how... Oh, God help me.
The reason why Master Chief has a visor that reflects everything is so that you see yourself in Master Chief.
Well, yeah, the big
'Cause
thing
he
is
is you.
Halo 1, that's why Halo 1's Master Chief isn't really a character, and in 2, he sort of is a bit more a character, and in 3, he's a little bit more. But the thing is, because of how they set him up, he's not supposed to be like a super chatty kind of guy. He is a walking murder fucking machine. Like that is killing. Like that's it.
Terminator.
I was about to say
That's
talking, but it's like no, not really. Murdering.
He's basically the Terminator,
But for humanity.
but for humanity. Yeah.
Unironic, that's a pretty good description. He's the Terminator, but pro-humanity, because all he does is walks around and slaughters all sorts of Xenos that are trying to like hurt humans. When he shows up on a battlefield, he shows up and he turns the tide. That's what always was captured really well in Halo 1, 2, and 3, is that whenever there's like Marines fighting and they're obviously fighting a losing battle. If you stand by and just watch, often most of those Marines they'll kill quite a few of them, but they'll take horrific casualties. But if you actually try to help them, like in Silent Cartographer, the beach assault section, you can basically get them all to live. Because you literally are the tip of the spear. You are the thing that will absolutely crush all the opposition that is basically in front of them. And that's what's cool. Chatfish are just talking about cheeks now. Look at that.
Woman Coomer is what they're also saying.
They all crave cheeks.
I don't think it's the women like.
Oh, don't be too. Don't be. No,
they
like
I,
that.
I understand. No, I'm not saying that they dislike that, but like every time I see like someone saying, I was the reason that man cake appeared on screen. It's always a guy saying that, right? It's always like the particular group of people.
No, you know why I said that, right? Because he's trying to get laid. Because he's that desperate for women.
Oh my god.
Yeah, you pieced that together, didn't you?
That's horrible. That's so bad. That's so.
Yeah, no.
I enjoy that.
Bino just realized, like, it's very obvious because, like, the most important part is to understand your enemy, but you don't need to obsess about them. I've already moved on with my life. I just know what they want to do, and I only bring it up when it's relevant. That's one of those points. Like, yeah, I can tell you exactly why they do that. It's because they're trying to impress other ladies that are leaning their way. It's literally because they're trying to get laid. That's sad. Poor little Bino. Joseph Stanton, the director of cinematics and writer for the Halo 2 documentary, said it best about Master Chief is being basically the player. Yep. He's not really supposed to be anything more than that. That's true. That's absolutely true. Because the reality is the real characters in Halo, Chief is the cool character you play as you're a badass saving all of mankind. But the big thing is that it's also about Keys, it's about, Johnson, it's about the little Marines that have different little personalities that talk to you. And it's about the aliens you're fighting. And that's the focus. You are at the center of a maelstrom, basically. And everything around you is basically a maelstrom, yeah. Forget, it's like an Indian word. But either way, you know what I mean?
I did just remember something.
I don't know what you mean anymore.
Of a statement of what the objective for Halo Infinite was, and their goal for designing the game was for you to be able to put yourself into the game.
But Halo Infinite?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
not giving Chief a person.
No, that's right. Like that part isn't the issue. That's not. Remember, just because they're a broken clock doesn't mean they can't be right once or twice a day.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's their intended goal, and that's why we're pushing more and more for representation. Now, how much that made it into their idea of the campaign, who knows? Because Infinite was designed as the multiplayer live service.
Buckybus also said, by the way, it shows the toll of everything Chief has taken and been subjected to. That Chief is old and has been worn down by the war and loss. I mean, the reality is Halo 4 should have been the end point. I think it was still bad, in my opinion. Mostly because it just doesn't have the same parts. Like, the Lasky story arc thing is interesting. Like, Lasky, tying it to the movie thing is neat. But this is also a problem. It's spreading stories through multiple pieces of media that are not related to each other. This is what makes Lord of the Rings great and timeless. Lord of the Rings, you don't have to consume 30 comics to learn about the details of all the side characters and what happens to them. Like, for example, playing Halo 4, you need to have known about the movie with Lasky in it, Forward Unto Dawn, or whatever it's called, to understand who Lasky is and why you should care. Halo 4, and I watched that movie, and so I knew, but for a lot of my friends, they're like, they only played the games, like, who is this guy? And why is this so focused on this Lasky dude? He just seems like a nobody. And it's because, like, they built up Lasky. Lasky's important because of the movie. But the issue is that because they're spreading it through multiple pieces of media, like, you need to watch the movie to learn about Halo 4 and why Lasky is there, right? And then you need to also read the comic, I believe, to learn about the Didact's fate. And you also need to read the Halo Forerunner books to learn about the Didact and the Librarian stakes and all this. And so you need to consume 3 different pieces of media to get one piece of media to make sense for the video game.
Yep, they did the same thing with 5.
This is disastrous. This is not how you do storytelling. The other pieces of media should be self-contained stories about other things. They shouldn't rely on each other. Let me show you an example of a game that does something similar but does it better. Dead Space 1. Dead Space 1 is a self-contained story in a video game by Isaac Clarke. If you watch the prequel movie, little cartoon that they made about Dead Space, it tells you about the ship and what happens to the USG Ishimura and its captain and its crew, as well as it follows the chief of security and how they tried to handle the disaster and ultimately failed to contain the necromorphs. And then Isaac Clarke arrives. It's not required to watch that because the game has nothing to do with that. It's taking place in the same place, but the chief of security, the captain Matthias B. Benjamin, he doesn't matter, and nor does Dr. Kynes. Dr. Kynes matters, but you don't need to watch the show to know about what Dr. Kynes is doing. You can piece it together with the game, and the game is self-contained. That is the right way of handling it. The show added its own story that was related to it, but not required for it. And that's what made the show okay, even though the animation's a little bit, budgety. Because EA didn't invest that much. And the backgrounds are very cheap.
There's also a book they did that's literally all about Altman.
But it's backlore.
Yeah.
You can do
that just builds up the universe
on a big franchise. Yeah. Star Wars does this too, where they have like a lot of books about like characters that have nothing to do with anything. And that makes the universe, the extended universe, more interesting because, it's a much bigger universe. There's a lot of stuff in this world. And there's stories that have nothing to do with the other characters because it's how massive the world is. That's how you make a franchise or an IP. Warhammer does this as well with tons of books, where there are stories about different characters all over the place. And that's what makes it massive. You don't need to have one story and everything has to be referencing this one core group of characters. Because if you do that, what happens is you kind of make everything feel small and bad and not very big and interesting. It's why you should let some stories end, right? Like when a character gets an ending to the story, maybe the story should just end. That's the end of their story. Maybe they could be referenced later as an older man. Maybe they cameo, like it's like, oh hey, how you doing? Like I can give you a tip about this, but I'm gonna go back to doing my own thing because adventuring is not for me. I just want to fucking stay over here. You do you cringe fuck, and like something like that, and then perfect. That is a great way to handle it. The comic they had with the Didact is also one of the worst fucking comics they've ever made, lol. I haven't read it, I just know about it. Because I refuse to read it. Because the idea that you fight the Didact in Halo 4, they introduce him, they've been introducing him with books. And the problem with this mentality is bad. Because you need to have read all the Forerunner books to understand who the Didact is. If you don't read those books, it's not as bad. Now that's why Artemis's critique or Artemis liking Halo 4 is something that if you consumed all the media, you could easily like Halo 4. Because all the media does make a compelling and more interesting story. There's a lot more depth to the characters than in most Halos, actually. However, the fact that it's required to consume all these other fucking media, it's bad. That's very bad. Because people who just want to buy the games to learn about the video game story now need to consume a movie, now need to watch a video game, now need to read books, multiple books, very long books, about Forerunner retcons, just to learn about the Didact, who he is, and to learn about Lasky and who he is, and then you play the game, and it doesn't even give a conclusion to those characters. It's worse. it leaves with a cliffhanger, not really telling you what happens to Lasky. And the other thing in that fucking thing is that it also doesn't really tell you what happens to the Didact. He doesn't die. He actually lives and gets killed off in a comic later. Again, The whole thing is that none of it matters. The game is literally just a piece of a puzzle.
Yeah, and it can't stand on its own without all the other things propping up the story.
Everything must be compartmentalized in independent sections. Much like the Titanic, with its hulls and its bulkheads not being tall enough, if water starts to flood one compartment, or bad writing in this case, or you don't read this thing, then that drags the whole ship down under, which is the vessel for the story. Right? And so that's important. Each compartment needs to be self-contained, to stand on its own two legs. The movie shouldn't require the game. It should be its own story. The game should be its own story about following the game characters. It's how I set up the Mixers project that we're working on. The video game is its own story, and it's its own containment thing. It's not referenced in other media because everything needs to be contained. Everything needs to be able to stand independently of one another and not be required as the greater whole, because if you do that, look no further than Halo to realize how that works out poorly. Or look no further than modern Star Wars. Modern Star Wars has this problem too. If you read the books, you learn a lot of world building actually took place for the movies and all that cringe stuff, right? With like the Operation Downfall, or whatever the fuck, or not Downfall, but like Cinder, whatever the fuck, and all the plans in place, and how Disney had basically carefully planned the story for the new Star Wars trilogy with all these books and tying them together with multiple pieces of media. Here's the problem with that. That's fucking terrible. That's an awful idea. And even if you look at the books and you read all those books and all that information and you compile it, which I did look at all that lore, not the books, but I did compile all the lore, and looking at it from that lens. And even if you do that, the story is a bit more consistent, but at the end of the day, it's still bad because it's fundamentally flawed. Even if you add those elements together, creating them as separate locked compartments is not good. It only makes more problems and different problems.
Yeah. Animatic Dude points out, for Halo 5, Locke was introduced and built up in his own movie. And there's Locke's supposed to be a big, important character in the game, and you have no frame of reference in game of who he is or what he is.
Yep.
Along with that,
also
they
Buck.
did release the...
They had Buck from ODST. Again, another game that you need to play to understand who Buck is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you keep introducing characters that you have no idea who. And the problem with the Halo books is, while the Halo books are good, the original ones, they talk about Kelly and basically Johnson's team, Master Chief's team. But the problem is they introduced his team back in Halo 5. But for people who played the games, Chief has been a solo act his whole fucking life, as far as the video games are concerned.
It's completely out of the blue from game perspective.
Not once in 1, 2, or 3 did he reference them.
Yep. And I remember they hyped up for 5. They released a book between 4 and 5, building up the new elite guy who's like leading the splinter of the Covenant, and they kill him in 5 in a cutscene in the first mission.
Yep.
Like, he's supposed to, from the book and like the building up between the games, he's supposed to be this big new threat, and you get none of that from the game. It's just a random elite who just is leading some troops, and then you kill him.
Yep, they built up the Prophet of Regret in Halo 2, and then there's a big fight, and then they kill him, and they introduce him in 2, and then they kill him. And then they also introduced Truth. And then in 3, you finally kill Truth. And so they're actually introducing these characters in the games that they are being presented in, as well as killing them in the subsequent games or even in the same game. And that is a far better way of storytelling than doing it any other way. Because if you do it any other way, it's now just feels like crap. Like if the payoff isn't done right, it feels trash.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes you feel like crap, Chatfish, doesn't it? Oh, it makes me feel like trash. And it feels like such a waste of effort. Like you made comics and movies and books to try to tell this epic story, but all you managed to do was just sell this half-assed, lazy story that just can't quite piece itself together. And the Titanic was
I'm still a little salty about that thing with 5 in the first mission, because they built that guy up a lot.
The elite? I didn't even know anything about him.
Yeah, so that elite.
Like they do
basically,
nothing with him in the.
He was part of a. No, he wasn't from St. Helios. He was one of their other planets, but he was diehard fanatic, and was more or less captured and held prisoner by Oni, and they experimented biological weapons a bit to try to like basically come up with a way to neutralize the elites if they ever become a threat again. So it's the whole book's him being experimental, and like eventually he escapes, and then discovers a split force, and then starts building up his force to get like come back. And then Halo 5 comes out, first mission, everything's falling apart around him, and then you just kill him in a cutscene.
Yep, it's just not very interesting when they do stuff like that. Like, it just isn't. And that's why when you make media, you need to make self-contained stories in that media. If you're going to make a comic book series about Halo, then the comic book series should be about characters from the comic series that you're making. They should be introduced and killed in that series, not in other pieces of media. The media that you're making can reference things that may have happened in other bits of media, but it would be referenced only at a point in which it would be necessary. And necessary as in like, this ring has been destroyed. I wonder who blew it up. As they're like, exploring this like blown up chunk of ring, because Halo 1. And that'd be the only thing, because they wouldn't know about Chief. They wouldn't be talking about Chief. They wouldn't be talking about the Pillar of Autumn unless they knew about it, unless somebody told them. And those characters know, they might mention something about it, but that would be about the end of it, because it's not focused on that. That's also true. Artemis raises a good point. Speaking of Halo retcons, remember Star Wars Order 66? How there was only like a handful of Jedi left? And if you watch Revenge of the Sith, and then after Revenge of the Sith came out, because of how Star Wars was at the time, it was just Luke Skywalker, Obi-Wan, and Yoda. And technically, Obi-Wan and Yoda are all that's left of the Jedi Order. And that's pretty devastating. It made the Order 66 feel catastrophic, right? Because you took an order of like thousands of Jedi dudes, and now there's only like 2 dudes left, and like a little kid. And that's it. That's all they have. That makes the rebellion feel like they're fighting such a massive force, like it's an uphill battle. But now there's like 1 billion people alive. Because of what Artemis said, just like in Halo, they try to paint it in 1, 2, and 3. And even when they talk about like Halo Wars, is like, oh, this is when Spartans were actually more active, in Halo Wars. That's why there's more Spartans here. They're like, Chief is the last Spartan in Halo 1, 2, and 3. If you play those games, Halo 1, 2, and 3, treat Chief like a legendary figure. When Chief enters the hospital at that South American base in Halo 3, if I remember, or I think it was South American, when he goes in there, and they're like, oh my god, look, it's Chief, and the one guy whose eyes have been like burnt out or whatever. He's like, are you guys fucking with me? Are you for real? Is he really there? Like, it's a legend, dude. He's a literal legend. The fact that he's there. And he's not just Master Chief, he's the last Spartan. And because they're like, well, there's all these other Spartans, and there's like billions of them. And to even criticize Halo Reach, the demystification process, which like we talked about in the beginning of the stream, happened rather quickly with Halo Reach, when they start Halo Reach off with the Spartans with their helmets off. A bad decision. Showing more Spartans and showing us Spartans and having them be more characters and more talky and more human, ironically, Halo Reach set the precedent to make Spartans less Spartan. They became less special in Halo Reach.
That's one thing that 343 retconned a little that slightly helped, and that's that those weren't Spartan 2s, well, those were 3s.
No, in that game they were Spartan 3s as well. The only Spartan 2 that was in Noble Team was fucking George.
I don't remember that ever being mentioned in game.
No, that's mentioned.
Okay.
1350 Norwegian Kroner says, was not the Blood Ravens from Dawn of War made by the people who made the RTS? That's absolutely correct. The Blood Ravens chapter from the Warhammer 40k universe was made by Relic. It is Relic's homebrew chapter that GW allows to be canon, basically. The Blood Raven chapter was made specifically for Relic's video games. meaning that they're referenced in only Relic games, really, which makes them kind of cool. That's why I thought that Space Marine sucked so bad, because it should have been about Blood Ravens. Oh my god, what a waste opportunity.
That would have been cool, or better, yeah. Jano.
Like this guy always have fucking Ultramarine.
Jano earlier donated 25p a line. Feels like a good time. For the Rise of Skywalker, Disney had a message played in Fortnite foreshadowing Palpatine. I have visions of violence. Palpatine.
Palpatine.
Hashtag Skiffrun, hashtag TallyLifts, hashtag MM7.
Thank you for your generous donation. Very much appreciated.
And TK donates 50 North Koreans. Was not the Blood Ravens from... Oh, yeah, you read that.
Yeah.
Stupid squealy.
Yeah, stupid squealy. It's like, weep. Holy shit, it's a Spartan. I thought they were all dead. This is Artemis quoting them. Yep. Because by that point, they definitely were all dead. That's what makes fucking... Oh my god, that's what makes Halo 3 so iconic. It's mankind's final stand on Earth. It's this heroic last hurrah, defiantly screaming out, echoing across the stars, as even the Covenant can't even put down mankind. They're forced to basically leave because we're able to basically bat them off, thanks to the fact that the Covenant's fracturing. The other elites show up. And the Flood is also hot on their ass. It really makes it cool. It really adds a lot. And it really just sets the tone. It's something that the newer Halos just don't have. Because they're too focused on minutia. Like Oni and the conflicts with Oni and the conflicts with bad humans. And humans are bad. Oh boy. Like, alright. Like, I get that we're gonna do some things different. But it's so fixated on humans bad that it's bled into the games too. Raptosaurus DRDJ or G donates a very generous $10, and thank you very much. As a reminder that the guy who mocked the people pointing out Halo 3 MCC crappy shot registration, a former pro named Dursky, still works at 343, despite Sims claiming the studio was gutted. That's a good point. The studio wasn't really gutted, was it? Like, they did fire people, but did they really gut it? When the reality is maybe they fired a few people? And how much you want to bet that they're just, not only is the leadership the same, well, pretty much is. Nothing is changed. Nothing is better. Don't get your optimism up, right? If the game turns out to be amazing, awesome. It'll be a fucking miracle, I can tell you that much. But the reality is it's gonna take a miracle, because this studio has very little hope. Cisco Star gives some membership. Thank you for the generous gifting of memberships. Really appreciate it, my dude. I can tell that your profile picture is yet again of some sort of Empire thing. And I can see the Empire logo on it. No matter how much you try to change it, you'll always be spottable for me, Cisco Star. Carotene donates 50 Norwegian kroner, says, Space Marine 2 Blood Ravens getting stuff gifted simulator from Necrons and other factions. What?
He's saying it'd just be gift simulator, as you just acquire chapter relics.
Oh yeah. Like, oh, the lost relic. As they grab the Emperor and
just grabs a random guardsman. A relic of the chapter.
You're going into the reliquary.
You're lucky, Team, that I'm actively adding this to Vintage Story for you.
Blake says, pick one. Ayane or Hanukkah? Hanukkah. Now you chose that. That you've tainted that choice now. No one asked you, Chumba. Nobody likes Chumba.
Hanukkah.
He's like,
Hanukkah.
But yeah, when it comes to the Halo debacle and the continuing unfolding of it, I think that Microsoft is just not really going to fix this. It's not going to get better. Either way, we'll wrap up this stream here. Thanks again for watching. Thanks for your generous donations. And we will move on to the next game we'll be playing, which will be continuing our Mass Effect playthrough, where if you would like to continue this conversation, we can continue it over there. So, thanks again for watching, Chatfish. Thanks again for hanging out. Thanks again for your generous donations. and we will see you later, Chatfish.